All right, everyone, welcome back to another session. I do apologize, it's been a while since I did one of these sessions, but we're back again this week, second week of February 2024. And really, what we talked about a few weeks ago when we did the analysis, nothing really changed. And I'll go into that in more details, what I mean by that. Because when you see the drawings, you might say, well, none of this happened. However, there are a few things that I will mention that will make you believe that some of this could be in the making. So basically, the market is still very strong, right? Since last October, end of October, beginning of November of last year, the market is really kicking on all cylinders. Like there are gaps that are opening and not being closed, right? So one here, one here, one here, and to the downside they're closing quickly, right? They open to the downside, they close quickly. This one closed quickly, and I'll talk about this because I kind of mentioned it a few weeks ago. So even if you look at the spies, very strong movement, really strong movement in the spies as well as the Qs. What remains weak is the Russell 2000, right? That remains weak. If you look at the IWM, for a very long time, we've discussed the idea. Let's go to the daily to make it easier to see. We've discussed the idea that IWM is just playing around in this tight range, right? Tight range, tight range. This is a consolidation that is taking place, and it hasn't really recovered since the beginning of 2022 when price came down. So we're still continuing to be in this tight range until we clear this range. And by clear meaning we're completely out of it and we use it as support and do this. Until we do this, uh, nothing is taking place. And as you can see, it tried to break out, but instead of using it as support, it came back inside. There's this very tight range, and today's action, terrible action inside there. Just real quick on the diamonds. Diamonds, the Dow is really strong as well, right? With the rest of the market, it has very strong components, and so they're very strong. So it's the small caps, the U.S. small caps that are suffering. So going back to our discussion of a few weeks ago, this is where we were when we had the conversation. This is where we were. And I said price is near a potential supply zone, but we couldn't see a supply zone in the Qs because we were at all-time highs. So I said, let's go to the leveraged Qs, TQQQ. And I said, from there, you can see if we go to the daily, maybe it's easier to see. Yes, you can see a supply zone in the TQQQs, right? So I said, let's use this supply zone as potential area for the Qs to potentially reverse. That was the idea. That was the hypothesis that I threw at us that we were working on. So that is based on that. I said, hey, price could potentially come down. So really, I think to make it easier to see, it's just the same. It's the same pattern, right? For either one of them, it's the same pattern. We were here when let's draw this. We were here when we discussed it, and so we came to this supply zone, right? Right as soon as we came to this supply zone, what did price do? It actually collapsed. It did what I said. At supply zone, it collapses. Now, the issue with this collapse is it came here, but it did not go even to 23.6% retracement. It was a nice move down, right? I played a nice put here with this anticipation and I captured nice gains, but it did not go to my green to green, right? That's what I want, is green to green. I'm not getting that green to green. Extremely shallow pullback. So how do you trade this, right? So because that's where we drew this line here. From here, as you can see, it comes to 23.6. That's why I said it's still in play, right? It's that the same move to continue to the upside, but it gave a very, very shallow pullback. After the shallow pullback, we have railroad tracks here, right? Up, down, up. So it's actually three of them that said, hey, we're gonna go to the upside. We're not gonna have a deeper pullback. So this pullback just kind of happened here. It happened here. Oops. It happened here, and now it's happening here. I think it was drawn on the daily, that's why it's kind of hard to see. So I don't know what it wants to do from here on out. So it's really, really a confusing market. And now, again, today, so we can erase these since we've talked about them. We didn't get our entry to the downside heading towards the green to green. But today, the CPI news, the market didn't like it. I think the market is anticipating a tremendous amount of rate cuts, right? A lot of rate cuts. That's what the market is anticipating. And today's news said, you know what, those rate cuts might not come anytime soon, right? May is the expectation of the first rate cut, and today's move is saying, oh, maybe we're wrong. Maybe it's not May, right? Maybe it's further down the road, which means the more we push it, the less likely we have, more than one or two cuts this year, if we have any cut at all, right? And so there's a lot of expectation we would have a lot of cuts. The employment market, the employment numbers are still strong. Inflation is not where it needs to be, and so the economy has not shown any signs that we're going to uh, make any dents with inflation. That's why we saw this terrible move today, and I'm not convinced that we're completely out of this move. Yes, the futures are flat and they're not telling us anything. It's really completely flat. But again, in Asia session, I don't expect US futures to really have a lot of movement. Usually, you'll see those movements uh, towards midnight Pacific time when London starts to wake up. That's when you really start to see some action, right? So as you can see right here, this is where action starts to develop. So right now, like from a trade perspective, I don't have any entry. This gap down I was not expecting, so I don't have any uh, entry to the downside. And to the upside, I'm not getting any signals yet. Right, this one you could have taken. I didn't take this one. It's too shallow for me. Right. Yes, if you want to day trade per se, you can take it, but our style is like swing trading more than day trading. So I don't want to monitor the charts every 15-20 minutes, right? I want to monitor them just once an hour. So this didn't feel comfortable. Sometimes not participating is good because you're protecting your valuable assets. So for next week, let's talk about next week. What are we gonna do? Where could we see some potential movements? So again, I want to see a deeper pullback. I want to get, for me to feel very comfortable, I want to see this. Right? I want to see this, my green to green zone. This is what I want. And in the meantime, there's always this idea, right? This is again, this is how you make money on the downside with extremely tight stops. So this, as you can see, is lower high, right? Now I was anticipating here, and so as soon as we broke this low here, I entered because I have my anticipation. But if you want to wait more of a confirmation, you can say, well, lower high, as long as I have a hard time making a new high, and we start making some inverted hammer or some consolidation, you enter. But where do you enter? It was too late to enter at the open of the gap, right? I mean, you made a tiny bit of money from that, but unless you took a chance, right? Or even here, lower high, I'm just gonna take a chance. Our chart pattern did not take place, right? We trade on patterns and we didn't see those patterns. But when you do enough trades, there are times you'll say, I'll pull the trigger, right? I'll pull the trigger, but my stop is extremely tight. This is my stop, right? That's it. This is all I'm willing to let the market move against me, right? Very little movement, then you're okay. So this we've missed. Now here we can making higher highs, but then where do you enter? Nothing gave you a signal that I'm going to make a lower high. Now we're starting to see equal low. Maybe if you break this, you can enter. How I would like to enter that is because we are here. I would like price to break and then test some highs and come back for my green to green. This is how, and I'll change this color to just make it different. This is how I play to the downside. This white line is how I'm expecting the market to move for it to give me an entry, right? The white line is, here's my entry to the upside. The green one is, if I get a pattern here somewhere, I want to take this entry to the downside while I wait for my long bullish momentum, right? So that's how I'm working that. But only if I get this, and this is my kind of line that I'm expecting it to break and make a lower high and continue to the downside. And this lower high could happen even here, right? It could even use this support as resistance now and use it. I don't trade a lot on support and resistance. I let my fibs be my support resistance or trend lines. But for entry purposes, a lot of people do this as long as you understand manipulation. Manipulation meaning it hits here, you go to the downside, they take it up momentarily. Don't be afraid. And then people say, "Oh, now it's going to the wrong side." They go long, and then they take them back down, take out their stops, and then it resumes in that direction, right? So as long as you wait for that manipulation to take place, or your stop is wide, you should be okay. But be careful, like you can make a wide stop, like in this case, for example, if you uh, had taken a late entry here, and you said my stop is way up here, I need to give some room. It doesn't matter because you're stopped out, right? So I don't want you to have that, right? So when you have a wide gap, you have some logical areas why you're thinking this gap is, or you take an extremely low position size to where you're okay if that happens to you, right? So that's what I want us to do for the coming week. Tomorrow would be a good day to kind of gauge where the market wants to head. If they really wanted to take care of, if you look at this, let's go to daily to make it easier to see. If you look at this supply zone, the supply zone has not been taken care of. So there could be still additional short positions within this supply zone, right? That's a big possibility. So that's why it's hitting it here. It might come back and hit it again until we clear the supply zone. We should not feel, oh yes, market is going north some more, because market wants to take a breather, and it's giving us that opportunity, and hopefully we'll get our green to green. Right now here, again, when you look at the daily, and when you're expecting that green to green on the daily, you're starting to make some significant breaks of structure, closing gaps, significant lower lows, uh, closing demand zones. When you start to see that, it's easy to panic, but if you have a plan, no need to panic. So this green to green might give us a very, very good entry. High to, if we go all the way to the bottom of that green, that's a 13% drop, right? That's a significant area of value to say, oh yeah, I'm ready to pull the trigger to the long side, right? And when markets are crazy, some very extremely speculative stocks become kind of shaky, right? Like AI, the C3 one. It's not doing that bad, but still, it's not very strong, right? Because the overall markets are shaky now. UPath I thought would be below 20 in light of recent moves, but UPath is also not doing bad. And if you look at Nvidia, today it fought the market. It didn't care what the rest of the market did. If you look at all these big drops, and Nvidia didn't care. Right? It closed the day, I think, slightly lower, but in comparison, it's almost like a gain. Yeah. So that's where we are. That's how we're preparing. Any trades that you could have taken, you didn't take, that you want to go over? Yeah, okay, that's all good. Yeah, like all of these companies that are doing well, they really got clobbered today. Even yesterday, it wasn't a great day for a lot of these companies, right? Yesterday was actually an indication of what could take place. That if you look at, on a, let's see, if you look on a day where market closes low, it's saying over the next few days I'm going to go lower, right? It's possible, because if you have a good trend up and then you go lower, that's a possibility, right? So even here, when you look at this gap that's formed here, the market closed lower, and then the next day it gapped down, right? When the market is kind of flat or closes slightly higher, it gaps up, right? Kind of flat or it closes higher, it continues to go up. But from previous day, when it closes lower, it has a tendency, like, okay, it's not, nothing that I say is like always 100%, right? So like in this instance, the market went down, but it didn't really continue to go down that same day, right? So it went down and then recovered that day. So within that day, it recovered, so it was okay. But like here, throughout the day, it's really down. It's possible that it's gonna go down. Throughout the day, it's down. It's possible that it's gonna go down eventually, right? So just keep that in mind. as you're trading. And so here significantly down, then it has a potential to go down. So okay, I think that's good. Any questions? Yeah, yeah. Let's reconvene next week and discuss things. All right.